Hello everybody, Francesco here for Luck Poker. Today I would like to explain you which are the three main reasons players have trouble beating the microstakes. I have over 7 year experience in coaching players from all stakes, and I think I identified three main reasons players cannot beat the small stakes or the micro stakes. I think solvers and similar tools are really important when you start the game, but I don't think they are a must if you're playing, for example, cash games up to an L50. If you have troubles beating lower stakes than that, I think you should check three areas of your game that may need some improvement. The first and probably most common area that you should work if you have trouble beating the stakes is performance. Bad performance leads to poker failure, and you should be really careful about your performance. With performance, I mean many things, everything surrounding not the strategic area of your game, but mainly the planning and the way you play, basically. A lot of players who struggle to beat the microstakes, for example, they play too many tables. Playing too many tables and playing too much in autopilot is certainly something which will damage your win rate, and if you don't have a lot of experience, it may prevent you from beating even lower stakes. Another big thing when you speak about performance is of course distractions. When you play poker, you should just play poker. Your phone shouldn't be anywhere around you. You should possibly be by yourself, and your whole focus must be on the tables. In your computer, you should definitely have only your poker room and your tracking software open, nothing else. Session planning is also very important when you speak about performance, because you should be very careful in playing the right times when you're not too tired possibly, and also trying not to play too much in terms of how long your sessions are. The average human being can maintain about 45 minutes of strong focus on something, and poker is no different. So if you have frequently 3, 4, 5 hour sessions without breaks in the middle, this will certainly affect your performance, and it's going to be more difficult for you to succeed in this game. My suggestion is to have 1.5 hour sessions with a break, about 5 minute break in the middle. And I suggest you have more of these short sessions during the day rather than having 4 hours of free time and playing poker 4 hours straight. Another important thing that players who cannot beat the microstakes typically do is having wrong expectations about the game and about their potential win rate in the game. First of all, very frequently new players have a big misunderstanding on how variance works and on how big it is in this game. So it's very easy that they expect downswings to be rarer than they actually are, and also smaller, and so they get, let's say, they get very hyped in the very beginning of the career, especially if they start on an upswing, but the moment downswing hits, their mood is completely ruined and they lose motivation, they tilt more easily, and this leads to a lot of losses. It's very similar to a diet. A lot of people start a diet very strong, very hard, they cut completely the carbs and so on, hoping to get good results quick with their diet. And in the beginning it is like this, if you start cutting your carbs, instantly you see good results in a very short amount of time, but then you reach a plateau in which you need more effort and to be more consistent with that, more than you would like. And if you see that your weight loss is decreasing, you get demotivated, and that's when somebody typically gives up on his diet and goes to McDonald's and, well, we'll try another time. It's the same with poker. You can start pretty good, you're in a good mood, you want to crush everything, then the downswing hits, you tilt, you start spewing some stacks, and that's where you ruin your win rate, and that's where you cancel any progress you are making in beating the micro stakes. Wrong expectations are typically also on a win rate. Most of the players I coached did expect to win much more, for example, at an L10 than they actually could. For example, let's say that you're playing, you're not a long season regular, so maybe your win rate, your ideal win rate at an L10 may be something like 5 big blinds per 100. 5 big blinds per 100 may sound a lot for some players, but if you put them in economical value, like how much are 5 big blinds per 100 at an L10, they're very few. They're like 50 cents every 100 hands, meaning that if you play a very high volume, like 1000 hands per hour, which again is not a small volume at all, you can expect to win about $5 per hour, which is really few, and it's tough to reason in those terms, because if you have a winning session at an L10, you may win $50, $60, $70, who knows, if you're in a very good run. But these $70 that you won in this hour, they are not your win rate. Your win rate stays at $5 per hour. So on average, that's what you will gain in the long run. And again, even if it's a decent win rate, especially for somebody who is new to the game, it's not a lot of money. So you need to be patient, because it takes time to make money with poker from the very beginning. And if you have too high expectations, for example, if you think you can win $20-$30 per hour at an L10, this is simply not true. Okay, if you're running well, you might, but it's most likely you're not gonna win that amount of money in the medium long run. So it's important to have good expectations on how much a winner wins at a certain stake, not to be disappointed when it seems like you are not moving forward because today you won 70 and tomorrow you lose 60, for example. Finally, something strategic also. I think there is some very common leak that players who struggle winning at the micro stakes have, which is not maximizing enough their value hand when they're playing versus a bad player. Typically, weak players, recreational players, are passive. Let's say, of course, there are exceptions, but the average recreational player is on the passive side. If you want to win the maximum from them, you need to take lines which exploit the fact that they're passive, and also bet sizings which exploit the fact that they're probably not very good players. When I speak about lines that you should take to exploit weak players, I mean, for example, donk betting. Donk betting is something typically we don't like to do. It's a weird line and it doesn't feel natural. But if you think your opponent is a passive player, donk betting with something like top pair, or even sometimes something weaker, may be a better strategy than checking and waiting for your opponent to bet. Or for example, slow playing. We typically should not slow play versus somebody who is probably passive. So if I have a set and I choose to check on the flop and my opponent bets, I'm not going to check call to slow play or to balance my lines. It's unnecessary versus a bad player. I'm just going to check raise, because check raise is the best way I have to hugely build the pot and try to get my opponent's stack. Again, there is no need to balance a check call, check line versus a weak player. We just want to get the maximum, the sooner the better. So do not hide your hand strength, do not make out of slow plays, be very direct. You want to build the pot, think at the line which will help you build the pot quicker. And don't forget the sizings. When you play versus a regular, you should tend to use the same sizings with various hands and with different strengths. But when you're versus a bad player and you have value, you should just ask yourself, which is the best way I can build this pot, as we said. So if in a spot your standard bet, for example, would be 70% pot, but you're versus a recreational player and you have a strong value hand, why not to bet 90% pot? typically speaking, whatever this guy is calling you with on a 70% pot bet is going to be the same kind of hands is going to call you on a 90% pot bet. So if you have value, why to bet 70% when you can bet 90%? Doesn't make any sense. And if you're in another spot in which maybe you want to size it smaller, let's say one of those spots when you bet 1/3 pot versus a regular, let's say imagine a King XX board in a single raise pot and you are the original raiser, why to bet 1/3 pot when you probably can bet about half pot and get the same amount of calls and folds from this opponent? You know, if on a board King 8-2 rainbow you have pocket eights and you bet half pot instead of 1/3, he won't even notice probably, okay? His calling range is going to be the same, so why would you bet 1/3? To balance reasons, why would you want to be balanced versus a bad player? He's going to be here in this session and maybe he's not going to be here for the next week and he might not even remember you when he comes back. So why to be balanced? It doesn't make any sense. Keep in mind that when you play these stakes, lower stakes, there are a lot of weak players at the tables and the vast majority of your win rate will come from them. So be very aware when you play a hand versus this kind of players and try always to squeeze the most out of them, because that's where your win rate is built. I hope these 3 tips will help you improve your win rate at the micro stakes and why not beat them. And let me know your feedback, or if you have any questions in the comments, I would be more than happy to answer. Thanks and see you next time.